So today's topic like defect life cycle. Okay. So pretty much like in previous session, like we have discussed about different type of testing. So when we are going to perform this different types of testing in the sense, so during the current sprint. Okay. So in a current sprint, like in order to close the particular user story, so we may perform like any testing. So whatever the testing which we are doing as part of the current sprint, we call it as an interact testing. Okay, so commonly we call it as an interact testing. So interact testing is nothing but so whatever the testing activities which we are performing in that particular sprint, so we call it as an interact testing. So which means like while performing the interact testing, so we may find some issues. So issues in the sense, so maybe some of the scenario may not work as expected. So whenever some new issues is found, so like how we are going to communicate to the developer in the sense, we are going to raise the defect in the Jira board. Okay. So like in tomorrow session, like let's discuss how we can raise the defect in the Jira board. So now let's discuss about the life cycle. So what happened? Like what is the process we are going to follow? Like whenever we log a new defect. So whenever the new defect is logged, initially the status will be like kind of new. Okay. So once it is a new status, either the business analyst or the development team will check whether it is a valid defect or invalid defect. Okay. So when something is within the scope, so which is nothing but if the particular requirement is mentioned in the user story, and if it is not working as expected, then we can say like it is within the scope. So when something is within the scope and if it is not working as expected, then they can tell it is of an valid defect. But there will be few cases. Okay. So we may log some out of the box defect. So out of the box in the sense which doesn't belong to the particular requirement. So those things we call it as an invalid defect. So when it is of an invalid defect, they will defer the invalid defects. Okay. So now whatever the defect is valid, so the developer will accept and they are going to provide the fixes for the defect. So then they will be changing the defect status to open. Okay. So now, so whenever the developer analyzes the defect, so they will be changing the status to in progress. And post that like once they have fixed the defect, so they will be changing the status to fixed. So once it is in fixed status, so then as a QA, like we are going to do the retesting. So what is mean by retesting? So retesting is nothing but we are rechecking the same functionality. So initially we told like one particular stuff is not working as expected. So now the developer has provided the fixes for it, and we need to ensure like due to the fix, like whether it is working as expected or not. And how we are going to ensure in the sense by doing the retesting. Okay. So retesting is nothing but so we are rechecking the same functionality. So while doing the retesting, so either it may work as expected. So when it is working as expected, so we may close the defect. So we initially change the status to the proposed close. Okay. In some case, if it is not working as expected, so still the issue exists. So then we can say not working as expected. So if this is the case, then we will be reopen the defect and we will reassign back to the developer. Okay. So when it is often proposed to close, then business analyst will review the test evidence and they will close the particular defect. So this is the progress or this is a flow which we are going to follow like whenever we log any of the defect. Okay. So like initially it will be in the open status and post that like we are going to change the defect to the in progress, and once the developer fixed they will change the status to the fixed, and once it is fixed the QA will pick up the defect and they are going to do the retesting and the outcome of retesting, either it can be working as expected or still the issue may exist. If it is working as expected, they will propose close the defect, and if the issue still exists, then they will reopen the defect and they will reassign back to the developers, and the developer will fix again. And once they fix, again we are going to do the retesting. So one and only if the retesting is passed, we can close the defect, else we will be keep on reopening the defect. Okay, so this is we call it as an like defect life cycle. So when we try to relate the same in the Jira board, like you could see, so these are the stages which are involved. So like initially, like it will be like kind of a new, and it will be assigned to the developers RBA. They are going to check whether it is an valid defect or the invalid defect. So only the valid defect are accepted. The accepted defect will be changed to the status called as an open. And once they are analyzing the defect, it will be like kind of an in progress and post fixed. So they are going to like once they fix, they are going to change the status to the fixed or resolved. So we are going to verify, which is nothing but like we are going to do the retesting. So while doing the retesting, if it is working as expected, we may close the defect, or else like we will be reopening the defect and we will be reassigning back to the developers. Okay, so this we call it as a defect life cycle. And if you scroll to the down, okay, so you could able to see one flow diagram. So this is the flow diagram, so like which we are going to relate in the Jira board. So like we may create an issue in the Jira board, and initially it will be in the open status, and post that like it will be kind of an in progress. So once it is in resolved, so like we are going to do the retesting and we may close the issue. And sometimes, so while retesting, if the issue still exists, like we are going to reopen the defect. So once the defect is reopened, then again it will be changed to in progress, and we may do the retesting, we may close the defect. So if you see the life cycle, like you could able to understand much better. Okay, so like initially it is in open status. So either they can accept the defect. So when they accept the defect, so it will be in progress. So once they close the defect stating that it is working as expected, so then they can close the defect directly, which means from open status we can directly close the defect. So if it is of an in progress, right, the next step is like what they do. So once they completed the activity, so like they may change the status to the resolved. So once it is resolved, like if it is working as expected, we may close the defect. If the issue still exists, then we can reopen the defect and we will be reassign back to the developers. Okay, so this we call it as an defect life cycle. So whenever the defect is logged, so we are going to follow the same process.